My husband spent 15 years building a multi-million-dollar luxury empire on my back, then tried to throw me out on the street with nothing but a trash bag of my old clothes. What he didn't know was I had been holding the match to burn his fake kingdom down for 3 straight years, and I was finally ready to drop it. My name is Chantal Rosa. I'm 35 years old, and until about 6 months ago, I was married to Marcus Vance. If you live on the West Coast, you've probably seen his face on billboards or glossy magazines. He was the golden boy of luxury architecture. We had the sprawling mansion in the hills, the least exotic cars, the perfectly curated social media life. From the outside, we were the ultimate power couple, but behind closed doors, I was his unpaid, unappreciated ghost. I met Marcus when I was just 19. I was a practical, detail-oriented girl working as an administrative assistant at a local design firm, saving every dime I made. Marcus was 25, charming, overly ambitious, and broke. He had these massive dreams of starting his own high-end architectural firm, but he didn't know the first thing about running a business. He knew how to draw beautiful houses, but I was the one who knew how to build a foundation. So, out of love and blind loyalty, I became his everything. When we got married and he launched his firm, I quit my job to run his back office for free. I was his accountant, his HR department, his client liaison, his event planner, and eventually the mother of our son, Julian. For over a decade, I poured my soul, my youth, and my absolute sanity into building his empire. And as the business grew, so did his ego. By year 12, Marcus had completely changed. The grateful, ambitious boy I married was replaced by a smug, narcissistic stranger who believed his own hype. He started making massive financial and business decisions without consulting me. He started criticizing my clothes, my weight, and my lack of vision. According to Marcus, I was just a housewife holding him back from his true potential. He was always at networking events, always flying out for client meetings. Then, on a random Tuesday, he walked into the kitchen while I was cooking his favorite meal, sat down, and without a single ounce of emotion, dropped the bomb. "I want a divorce, Chantal," he said, staring at me like a bad investment he was finally writing off. "And just to be clear, I'm taking the house, the firm, and the cars. You didn't put your name on the founding LLC documents, so legally the business is mine. You can keep Julian. I'll give you a small payout to get an apartment, but you need to be out by the end of the month." He sat back, crossing his arms, waiting for me to cry, waiting for me to beg. His mother, Evelyn, a woman who had treated me like the help for 15 years, actually showed up the next day with trash bags. She literally stood in my walk-in closet, handing me my old sweaters and telling me that the designer bags Marcus bought me were marital assets that he would be keeping. A week later, Marcus started bringing his new project manager to the house. Her name was Chloe. She was 26, wore clothes that cost more than my first car, and looked at me with this sickening pity. Marcus would sit on the couch with his arm around her, in the house I decorated, drinking wine from the glasses I bought, acting like I was already a ghost. Everyone in our circle thought I was completely shattered. My family told me to hire a shark lawyer and fight him for every penny. My friends looked at me like a tragic victim who had fumbled the bag. They saw a woman who had given up, a woman who was letting her arrogant husband walk all over her. But here is the beautiful thing about being underestimated. People stop watching you, and when a narcissist stops watching you, they get sloppy. What Marcus, Evelyn, Chloe, and my own family didn't know was that I wasn't broken. I was just incredibly patient. Let's rewind the clock 3 years before the divorce. I was up late one night doing the firm's unglamorous bookkeeping. Marcus had become very secretive about a few specific accounts, claiming his new wealth manager was handling them. But I'm a numbers girl. I notice when things don't balance. That night, I dug deep into the digital archives, bypassing his basic passwords. What I found at 3 a.m. made my blood run ice cold. Marcus wasn't building an empire. He was building a massive, terrifying house of cards. To fund his flashy millionaire lifestyle, he had secretly taken out 3 separate mortgages on our home. The house we supposedly owned outright had $1.5 million in debt attached to it. The market value was only $1.2 million. We were underwater. But that was just the beginning. The business lines of credit were maxed out. He owed massive back taxes. He had lost hundreds of thousands in terrible crypto investments and bad gambles trying to look like a venture capitalist. He was even paying rent on a luxury condo downtown, which, looking back, was clearly for his rotation of women. I did the math on a legal pad. Total actual assets, roughly $2 million. Total hidden debt, nearly $3 million. My husband was a fraud. We were functionally bankrupt, completely drowning in debt, and he was keeping it a secret so he could maintain his image. My first instinct was to run upstairs, wake him up, and scream. But I stopped myself. If I confronted him, he would gaslight me. He would somehow manipulate the situation, force me to co-sign consolidation loans, and drag me down with his sinking ship. Instead, I looked at my own safety net. Years ago, my late grandmother had left me a private inheritance of about $400,000. She specifically wrote in her will, "For Chantal alone." I had never touched it, never mixed it with Marcus's money. Under the law, it was solely mine. The very next day, I quietly contacted a retired financial attorney. I moved my entire inheritance, plus my personal IRA from before I met Marcus, into an ironclad, irrevocable trust in our son Julian's name. Marcus had absolutely no access to it. It was legally bulletproof. And then I documented everything. I made copies of every hidden loan, every bad investment, every maxed out credit line. I put them in a safe deposit box. And then I simply waited. I knew a man with an ego that huge and pockets that empty would eventually look for an escape hatch. He would find a new, shiny girl, try to discard his boring wife, and attempt to run off with the assets. For 3 years, I played the supportive, quiet wife. I smiled at dinners, I let him brag. I mastered the art of silence. So when he finally sat at that kitchen table and demanded a divorce, demanding he keep the house, the business, and the cars, I didn't see a tragedy. I saw a miracle. He wasn't demanding the assets, he was demanding the debt. He just was too stupid to realize it yet. I hired a brilliant, no-nonsense lawyer named Sarah. When I dropped the 3 years of financial evidence on her desk, she looked at me like I was a criminal mastermind. "You want to walk away clean?" she asked, a slow smile spreading across her face. "I want him to have exactly what he asked for, everything." For the next few months, I played the role of a lifetime. I showed up to mediation sessions looking exhausted, wearing plain clothes, keeping my head down. I played the broken, defeated housewife perfectly. "I don't want to fight," I told the mediator, my voice shaking just enough to make it believable. "I know Marcus built this business. I know the house is his pride and joy. I just want a clean break. Give me a $60,000 cash settlement to start over, my personal keepsakes, and joint custody of Julian. Marcus can keep the rest." Marcus practically jumped out of his chair to agree. He thought he had pulled off the heist of the century. He told his friends I was weak. His mother bragged to her country club that I was walking away with pennies. Marcus even bought a $20,000 watch on the company card to celebrate his victory. But legal documents are a beautiful thing. If you read the fine print, they tell a whole different story. Attached to the divorce settlement was a liability disclosure statement. By signing the agreement to take sole ownership of all marital properties and businesses, Marcus was legally agreeing to assume 100% of the liabilities attached to them. His lawyer, a seasoned professional, tried to stop him. A week before the final signing, his lawyer noticed the clause and demanded a full financial audit. But Marcus, blinded by his own ego and pressured by his young girlfriend who wanted the divorce finalized so she could be the new lady of the manor, refused the audit. "I know what my company is worth," Marcus arrogantly told his lawyer. "She's giving up. Just let me sign." He signed a legal waiver against his own lawyer's advice. The final court hearing was on a sunny Thursday morning. I wore a simple black dress. Marcus wore a custom designer suit, looking at me with this sickening, patronizing smirk. Chloe was waiting out in the hallway. The judge, a sharp woman in her 60s, looked over the paperwork. She paused, looking deeply at the liability disclosure, and then looked at Marcus. "Mr. Vance," the judge said, her voice echoing in the quiet courtroom, "are you absolutely certain you understand what you are signing today? You are assuming all marital assets, but you are also assuming all associated debts. Your counsel recommended a financial audit, which you explicitly waived. Is that correct?" Marcus sighed, annoyed. "Yes, Your Honor. I know exactly what my assets are. My ex-wife is just trying to drag this out. Let's finalize it." The judge looked at me. I kept my face completely blank. "Very well," the judge said, hitting her gavel. "The marriage is dissolved. Mr. Vance, the properties, the firm, and all associated liabilities are now your sole legal responsibility. Ms. Rosa, you are granted your cash settlement and cleared of all marital debts." I stood up, smoothed out my dress, and picked up my bag. It was right at that moment that Marcus's lawyer, having finally flipped to the back page of the financial appendix my lawyer had submitted to the court records, went completely pale. He leaned over and whispered frantically into Marcus's ear. I watched the exact second my ex-husband's soul left his body. I watched his smug, handsome face turn the color of ash. He scrambled to pull the paperwork toward him, his hands suddenly violently shaking. He saw the numbers, the $1.5 million in hidden house debt, the maxed-out business credit lines, the reality that his net worth wasn't $5 million, but negative $1 million. "Wait!" Marcus gasped, his voice cracking, standing up in a panic. This isn't right. She hid this. This is fraud. The house is paid off." "Mr. Vance, sit down," the judge barked. "These debts are in your name, attached to your business. You waived the audit. You signed the agreement. This court is adjourned." I didn't say a single word. I didn't need to. The silence was the loudest, most devastating weapon I had ever wielded. I simply turned and walked down the aisle. As I pushed through the heavy wooden doors into the hallway, I heard him screaming at his lawyer behind me. Chloe, the young girlfriend, looked up from her phone, her smile fading as she heard the panic in her rich boyfriend's voice. I walked out into the warm California sun, taking the deepest, freest breath of my entire life. The collapse of Marcus Vance was swift and brutal. Within 3 weeks, the bank started calling in the loans. Because he now legally held 100% of the debt, he had no one to share the burden with. Evelyn, the wicked mother-in-law, had to use her own retirement savings to try to keep Marcus out of bankruptcy court. They lost the mansion to foreclosure. The flashy cars were repossessed. The luxury firm dissolved into a mountain of vendor lawsuits. And me? I took my $60,000 cash settlement and rented a beautiful, peaceful, sunlit apartment in a great school district for Julian. I used the time and peace of mind to finally go back to school to get my own degree in finance. Julian's future is completely secured by a trust fund his father can never touch. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't screaming, it isn't fighting, it isn't trying to destroy the person who hurt you. The greatest revenge is radical acceptance and strategic silence. When someone shows you they are entirely driven by their own ego and greed, you don't have to push them off the cliff. You just have to step out of the way, hand them the shovel, and let them dig their own grave. Life will always test you. People will try to use you, diminish you, and throw you away when they think you no longer serve their narrative. But never let anyone make you forget your worth. Be observant, be smart, Protect your peace and protect your foundation. You don't need to respond to malice with malice. You just need to outsmart it. Because the truth is, karma doesn't need your help to strike. Sometimes karma just needs you to step back and let the universe do its job. Thank you for listening. If you found value in this story, share it with someone who needs to hear that their silence is their power. Never stop building your own future. Keep moving forward.